From the moment we are born, the voices we hear shape our reality. A mother's soothing words calm a crying baby, while a harsh tone can instantly ignite fear in a child's heart. This truth never really changes as we grow older. Words have the power to heal or to break, to build or to destroy. And when they come from a man, especially a man a woman loves, their impact becomes even more magnified. Because for a woman, words are not just sounds, they are signals of love, trust, and security. They carry meaning far beyond their literal sense. They become imprints on her emotions, on her self-esteem, on her ability to feel safe within that relationship. What men often overlook is that women don't just hear words, they feel them. Every tone, every phrase, every subtle shift in language tells her something about where she stands and how deeply she is valued. It is often said that actions speak louder than words, but when it comes to women, words can sometimes echo louder than actions. A man may provide, protect, or fulfill responsibilities, yet a careless sentence can undo months, even years of effort. Why? Because words go straight to the heart. They enter the space where love resides, where a woman's sense of worth is nurtured, and they can either water that space with reassurance or poison it with doubt. A single phrase, uttered in a moment of anger or indifference, can linger in her mind far longer than a man realizes. Actions may be forgotten with time, but words replay like a broken record. She will recall the exact tone, the exact moment, and the exact way it made her feel, because words have the power to stay alive inside her long after they've been spoken. Men often underestimate this reality. They think words are temporary, that once an apology is made, the impact fades away. But for women, words are tied to emotions, and emotions do not fade as quickly as logic demands. A woman may forgive, but she rarely forgets what has been said to her. When a man says, "You're not good enough," or "You're too much," it doesn't just end with the sentence. It becomes a mirror she holds up to herself in her weakest moments. Even when she knows it may not be true, those words can haunt her, influencing how she sees herself, how she values her place in the relationship, and even how she interacts with the world around her. This is why women fear certain words more than they fear actions, because words attack the core of their identity and emotional security. For men, words can be casual, offhand, even meaningless in the heat of the moment. But for women, they are interpreted through the lens of connection. She will ask herself, did he mean it? Does this reflect how he truly feels? Is this a glimpse of his real truth that he hides behind actions? When words don't align with actions, confusion sets in, and confusion for a woman feels like instability. And no woman feels safe in instability. She may stay, she may smile, but inside she is unraveling because words have shaken the foundation on which she built her trust. This is why the words of a man can hold so much weight, because they are not just communication, they are confirmation. They confirm love, or they confirm doubt. They confirm stability, or they confirm danger. Every man needs to understand that women listen differently. They are not only paying attention to what you say, but also to what your words imply. They pick up on subtle changes, on the lack of warmth, on the absence of assurance. And when those small details add up, she begins to fear the silence between the words even more than the words themselves, because silence too is a language. Silence tells her when the love is dying, when the connection is fading, when the effort is being withdrawn. So when you speak, realize that you are not just filling the air with sound, you are shaping the way she feels about herself, about you, and about the future of your relationship. There are many phrases a woman dreads, but none cut as deep as the words, "I don't love you anymore." These 5 words are like a dagger, not because they signal anger, not because they signal conflict, but because they signal the death of everything she believed was alive. For a woman, love is not just an emotion. It is her anchor, her foundation, her reason to give and to nurture. Love is what makes her sacrifice without complaint, what makes her forgive beyond measure, and what makes her endure struggles most men never see. So when she hears those words from the man she has poured herself into, it is not just a rejection of her presence, it feels like a rejection of her very essence. A man might say them casually, thinking they are just the truth in that moment, but to her it is not just a truth, it is the end of the story she built in her heart. When a man says, "I don't love you anymore," he may be expressing something he has felt for a while, but for her it lands like a sudden explosion. She is left questioning every memory, every promise, every whispered assurance that once felt eternal. Were those moments lies? Were those words temporary? Was she blind to the signs? This single sentence sends her spiraling into self-doubt because women are conditioned to connect their worth to the love they receive. It is not weakness. It is the way they are wired emotionally. Love is safety. Love is validation. Love is belonging. And when that love is suddenly declared gone, she feels stripped bare, vulnerable, and abandoned all at once. What makes these words even more terrifying is that they cannot be negotiated with. Anger can be calmed, misunderstandings can be clarified, but the loss of love feels irreversible, and that is what shatters her to the core. A man may think he is being honest, that he is simply stating a fact about his changing feelings. But for a woman, this is not just honesty, this is devastation. Because love for her is not just about the present moment, it is about the future she imagined. She does not invest her heart in fragments. She invests with the hope of permanence. When she gives her love, she intertwines it with visions of shared dreams, of family, of companionship that lasts. To be told that love has vanished is to be told that the future has been erased, that all the tomorrows she imagined no longer exist. These words don't just end a relationship, they end an entire vision of life she carried in her mind. Even more painful is the timing with which these words are often delivered. By the time a man says them, he has usually already detached emotionally. He has had time to prepare himself, to process the shift, to become numb to the weight of his own declaration. But she, on the receiving end, hears them as a bombshell. She did not rehearse, she did not anticipate, she was not given the luxury of gradual detachment. And so the impact is uneven. He speaks them with a cold finality, while she absorbs them with fresh wounds. That imbalance is what makes the words so cruel. Not only are they painful, but they also leave her feeling ambushed. What men often fail to realize is that women will replay those words for years. Even if she moves on, even if she builds a new life, a small part of her will always remember the moment she heard them. They will echo in her most vulnerable times, when she questions her worth, when she wonders if she was ever truly loved, when she doubts whether love itself is permanent for anyone. Those 5 words are not just a sentence, they become a scar. They mark her outlook on relationships. They mark the way she trusts, and they mark the way she allows herself to love again. And though she may rise from it stronger, though she may eventually rebuild her sense of self, the memory of hearing "I don't love you anymore" will always remain as one of the deepest fears every woman carries. Out of all the words a man could say, few ignite more fear and devastation in a woman than the phrase, "I've found someone else." These 4 words do not just signal the end of a relationship. They awaken one of the deepest insecurities embedded in the feminine heart, the fear of being replaced. For a woman, love is not only about companionship, it is about uniqueness. She doesn't just want to be loved. She wants to be irreplaceable in the life of the man she gives herself to. She wants to be the one he turns to, the one he fights for, the one he cannot imagine living without. So when she hears that another woman has entered his world and taken her place, it is not just betrayal, it feels like erasure. Everything she thought made her special, everything she thought secured her place in his heart, suddenly feels meaningless in the shadow of someone new. The pain of hearing "I've found someone else" is not only about the loss of love, but also about the comparison it creates. Instantly, a woman's mind begins to race. What does she have that I don't? What did I fail to give him? Was I not enough? This spiral of self-doubt can consume her because she ties the rejection not just to his feelings, but to her value as a woman. It is no longer simply that the relationship is over. It is the humiliation of knowing he chose someone else instead. And for many women, that wound runs deeper than loneliness. Loneliness can be endured, but the idea of being replaced creates a lasting scar. It is not just about losing him, but about losing her own sense of worth in his eyes. Men often underestimate the brutality of this phrase. They may see it as straightforward honesty, as clarity about why they are leaving. But to a woman, it is far more than clarity. It is cruelty. Because "I've found someone else" is not just a statement of fact. It is a comparison, a declaration that she has been measured and found lacking. Even if the man never intended to hurt her this way, those words tell her she is not the chosen one anymore. And in a woman's heart, not being chosen is one of the most devastating realities she can face. She may begin to question not only her past actions, but her very identity. Every flaw she ever criticized in herself will now feel amplified. Every insecurity she tried to hide will now scream louder. It is as if his words validate her deepest fears, that she was never enough to keep him. The phrase also carries another cruel undertone. It highlights betrayal, because rarely does a man find someone else overnight. More often, it means his attention has already shifted, his loyalty already fractured, while he still stood by her side, pretending to be present. So when he finally confesses, she not only hears the words, she sees the timeline of deception behind them. She wonders how long he has been lying, how many moments of intimacy were already contaminated by another woman in his mind. The betrayal is not just in the act of replacement, but in the dishonesty that precedes it. And for a woman, that dishonesty is unbearable because trust is the very fabric of her emotional safety. Once trust is shattered, she is left not only with heartbreak, but also with the feeling that she was living in an illusion all along. What makes these words so haunting is that they follow her even after the relationship ends. Long after the man has moved on, she may find herself comparing to the shadow of the other woman. She may scroll through pictures, analyze her appearance, her personality, her lifestyle, searching for the reason why she lost. Even if she knows deep down it was not about her shortcomings, the fact that he chose someone else will replay in her mind as proof that she was replaceable. And for a woman who gave everything, her love, her loyalty, her time, there is no fear greater than realizing it was not enough to make her unforgettable. There are words that end arguments, and there are words that end dreams. When a man looks at a woman and says, "I can't do this anymore," or "I'm not ready for a future with you," it does more than signal the breakdown of a relationship. It destroys the foundation of certainty she built her world upon. For a woman, commitment is not casual. It is the glue that binds her sacrifices, her patience, her loyalty. She invests not just in the present, but in the vision of a shared tomorrow. Every choice she makes, from the way she gives her energy to the way she envisions her life, is tied to that sense of security. And when a man suddenly withdraws it, she is left not only with heartbreak, but with the collapse of everything she planned, everything she believed was guaranteed, and everything she trusted him with. The cruelty of these words lies in their suddenness. Rarely does a man say, "I can't do this anymore," after a single moment of reflection. Most of the time, he has been detaching slowly, preparing himself for the decision. But for her, the announcement comes like a storm she never saw coming. One day she is making plans, picturing milestones, imagining years together, and the next she is told those dreams no longer exist. The abrupt withdrawal is not just about losing him, it is about being blindsided, about realizing she was building a castle on ground that was already crumbling. That shock is what devastates her most, because she gave her trust in full, only to learn that his commitment was conditional all along. For women, words like these cut deeper than anger or conflict. Anger at least shows that passion still exists, that there is something worth fighting over. But when a man says he cannot continue, when he says he is not ready for the future, what he is really saying is that he no longer sees her as part of his story. That absence of vision is worse than 1,000 arguments. It tells her that no matter what she gives, no matter how much she invests, her place in his life is not secure. And for a woman, security in love is not about money or material things. It is about knowing she belongs, knowing she is chosen, knowing her future is intertwined with his. Without that, every sacrifice feels wasted, every memory feels tainted, and every dream feels shattered. The impact of these words is magnified because they rob her of control. When a man says, "I'm not ready," he is making a choice that leaves her powerless. She cannot argue her way into being chosen. She cannot negotiate love or force commitment. All she can do is stand in the ruins of what she thought was unshakable. This helplessness intensifies the wound because women are not afraid of working for love. They are afraid of giving their all and still being left with nothing. These words confirm that very fear. They tell her that despite her loyalty, despite her dedication, despite her willingness to grow and endure, she was still not enough to keep the commitment alive. And what lingers long after these words are spoken is the ripple effect they create. A woman who has once heard, "I can't do this anymore," often carries that memory into every future relationship. Even when a new man loves her genuinely, even when he shows signs of commitment, a part of her remains cautious, suspicious of the day those words might resurface again. The withdrawal of commitment does not just end one relationship. It plants seeds of doubt that can haunt her for years. It rewrites the way she perceives promises, the way she receives affection, and the way she dares to believe in forever. There are wounds created not by harsh insults or loud arguments, but by the quiet cruelty of indifference. When a man looks at a woman and says, "Do whatever you want," or "I don't care," those words carry a sting far deeper than any fight, because fights at least mean there is something left to fight for. Anger, even though painful, still shows passion, still shows that the relationship matters enough to evoke emotion. But indifference is deadly. When a man responds with cold detachment, it signals to a woman that she no longer has a place in his heart, that her actions no longer affect him, that her presence no longer matters. For a woman who thrives on connection and emotional closeness, this kind of coldness feels like emotional abandonment, a slow death of intimacy delivered in the most casual words. Women fear these words because they carry an invisible message: you don't matter anymore. When he says, "Do whatever you want," she doesn't just hear freedom, she hears dismissal. She hears that her choices, her concerns, her feelings no longer carry weight in his world. When he says, "I don't care," it pierces deeper than anger because it tells her she has lost influence over his heart. For a woman, love is about significance, about knowing that what she does, what she says, and who she is matters to the man she loves. Indifference is the ultimate opposite of that significance. It is not love turned into hate, it is love turned into nothingness, and nothingness is what terrifies her the most. The cruelty of emotional coldness lies in its subtlety. Unlike betrayal or explicit rejection, it doesn't come with dramatic revelations or confessions. It seeps in slowly. A man who once hung on to every word she said now barely responds. A man who once cared deeply about her happiness now shrugs at her emotions. A man who once fought to win her over now acts as if she is already lost. This gradual withdrawal creates confusion. She begins to question herself. Am I imagining this? Did I do something wrong? Why does he no longer care? The silence between his words becomes louder than any fight. His lack of reaction becomes more painful than any argument. Because when she feels invisible in the eyes of the man she loves, it doesn't just wound her, it dismantles her sense of worth in the relationship. What men often don't realize is that indifference feels like betrayal in disguise. At least with betrayal, there is clarity. You know where you stand, you know what went wrong. But when a man grows emotionally cold, a woman feels trapped in uncertainty. She doesn't know if he's staying or leaving, if he still cares deep down, or if he has completely checked out. That limbo is tormenting because she cannot fight for something when she doesn't know what exactly she is fighting against. And the cruelest part is that he may still be physically present, sitting next to her, sharing the same roof, but emotionally he has already left. That invisible departure hurts more than the visible one. These words, I don't care, do whatever you want, are feared because they don't just end conversations, they end intimacy. They strip away the bond that made her feel safe, desired, and connected. For a woman, emotional closeness is the heartbeat of love. Without it, everything else, gifts, responsibilities, even time together, feels hollow. When he becomes cold, when his words carry detachment, she begins to question not just the relationship, but her own value within it. She wonders if she has lost her place in his heart, if she has become replaceable, if she is simply existing beside him rather than being truly loved by him. And that quiet fear eats away at her spirit, because it is not rejection she fears the most. It is the indifference that makes her invisible. What many men fail to understand is that for a woman, the deepest pain in a relationship is not caused by physical absence, but by emotional loss. A man can be miles away and still make her feel close, still make her feel cherished, still make her feel secure with his words and gestures. But when he is emotionally distant, even while sitting right next to her, she feels lonelier than if he were across the world. Women are wired to seek emotional connection as the foundation of love. They measure closeness not by proximity of bodies, but by proximity of hearts. That is why when words and actions begin to erode trust, when emotional intimacy begins to disappear, the loss she feels is far heavier than physical distance could ever create. The reason this kind of hurt runs so deep is because women tie their sense of safety and worth to emotional security. She can forgive mistakes, she can endure struggles, she can even withstand temporary absence. But when she senses detachment in his tone, when she hears indifference in his words, it strikes at the core of her stability. A woman does not fear being alone as much as she fears being unloved while still present in a relationship. That paradox, being together but feeling disconnected, tears her apart because it creates confusion. She questions what went wrong, whether she is to blame, and why the bond she trusted has suddenly become fragile. This confusion often hurts more than a breakup itself because the relationship is technically still there, but the emotional lifeline has already been cut. For women, emotional loss hurts more than anything because love is not transactional for them. It is transformational. When she gives her heart, she doesn't do it halfway. She invests her time, her loyalty, her sacrifices, her very identity into the relationship. So when the emotional bond starts to fade, it feels as if her entire investment is slipping away with no return. The smallest changes in his words become magnified in her mind. A man may think he is simply tired, distracted, or uninterested in a moment, but she hears a deeper message. I no longer feel for you the way I used to. That perceived message shatters her spirit because once emotional safety is questioned, every aspect of the relationship feels unstable. This is why careless words can be more damaging than physical actions. A man may not physically leave, he may not betray, but if his words lack warmth, if they lack care, if they lack love, the woman still feels abandoned. She may lie beside him at night, yet feel a distance greater than oceans. She may live under the same roof, yet feel like a stranger in her own relationship. And what intensifies the pain is that she cannot fix it with logic. Emotional loss is not something that can be solved with explanations or practical gestures. It requires emotional presence, which only he can give. Without it, she feels powerless, unable to bridge the gap, no matter how much effort she puts in. What men often don't realize is that women hold on to words long after they are spoken. They replay conversations, analyze tones, and remember moments when love was withheld in language. Every cold phrase becomes a reminder of emotional loss. Every indifferent reply becomes proof that the connection is slipping away. For men, words may be temporary, forgotten once the moment passes. But for women, they linger, shaping the way she sees herself, shaping the way she views the relationship, and shaping the way she trusts. And this is why emotional loss hurts her more than anything else, not because she is weak, but because to her, love without emotional depth is not love at all. Remember this, words are not just sounds, they are the reflection of the heart. A woman does not fear losing time, distance, or even material things. What she fears most are the words that strip away her sense of love, security, and worth. Every man must understand that his words carry weight. They build or they break. They heal or they wound. And every woman must remember that her value is not defined by what someone else says to her, but by what she knows within herself. If love is real, let your words protect it. If love is fading, let your words honor it. Because the sentences you speak today can either leave scars that last a lifetime or memories that give strength forever.